In Better Than Before, I talk about all the strategies that we can use to change our habits. And I really shouldn't have favorites, but I have to confess, I do have a favorite. My favorite chapter to work on in this book by far was the chapter on loophole spotting, because the loopholes are so hilarious. Now, what is it to spot loopholes? Now, we're all grown-ups. We can all mindfully make exceptions to our habits, but loopholes are different. Loopholes are like us looking for justifications, reasons that we really can't be expected to keep our habits because something excuses us. There's some loophole that we're invoking that means, oh, we're off the hook this time. We don't have to follow our habits. But the fact is, really everything counts. There's nothing that stays in Vegas. So our habits are going to catch up with this, whatever. Now, but a lot of times loopholes just run through our heads so quickly, we're not even really aware of them. So I think by focusing your attention on the different categories of loopholes, you can make yourself more aware of the fact that you're invoking them and then maybe resisting them. And I love gathering them. I mean, in different versions of the book, there were like 30, 40 examples of each loophole. And then every time I did an edit, I had to cut it down and cut it down and cut it down. It was so hard because I love the loopholes. And there's 10 categories of loopholes because we are so good at thinking of loopholes. We're like a cell phone looking for a signal, like, what's my loophole? What's my loophole? So here are the 10 categories. The first category is one that I am very prone to, which is the false choice loophole, which is to think like, I can either do this or I can do that. And I'll think to myself, well, I can't make a dentist appointment because I'm too busy writing. Really? Does the one thing really mean that I can't do the other? Another very popular one is the moral licensing loophole, which is, I've been so good at doing this, it's okay for me to do that. And closely related to that is the tomorrow loophole, which doesn't matter what I do today because I'm going to be so good tomorrow. It doesn't matter if I work on my PhD thesis today, because tomorrow I'm going to work all day in the library. This loophole is by far one of the most popular loopholes, and that's the lack of control loophole. Well, I had to have dessert because everybody was having dessert. Or, the dog ate my homework. Or somebody brought bagels to the meeting. I couldn't control myself because of circumstances. But a lot of times we have more control than we think. Next is the planning to fail loophole. This is a subtle loophole. It's this strange thing is that often when it comes to our good habits, we go very far out of our way to arrange for excuses to screw up. Now, I have long been haunted by this strange, brilliant skeleton of a book by J.M. Barrie called The Boy Castaways of Black Lake Island. And I actually have the whole book here. I love it so much I copied it from Beinecke Library. And one of the first images in it is, we set out to be wrecked. These three boys are going on an adventure, and the whole purpose of the adventure is to be in a wreck. We set out to be wrecked. And this is what we do in the planning to fail loophole. We think, oh, well, I'm just going to buy some scotch in case somebody stops by. Really? I'm just going to lie on the sofa so I can brainstorm in comfort. How's that going to work out? We're planning to fail. One of the most popular loopholes is the this doesn't count loophole. I'm on vacation, I'm sick, it's rainy. We can always mindfully make exceptions, but there's nothing that doesn't count. One of the funniest ones is the questionable assumption loophole, which is when we assume things, but then when you look at it more closely, you're like, I don't know if that's exactly true. Like, oh, I can eat this because the label says it's healthy. Really? Or, I've been working out so much that this extra weight that I've put on is all muscle. And I'm not so sure about that. So you want to question your assumptions. Then the eighth one is the concern for others loophole. This is when we use others as an excuse to break it. Like, well, I couldn't possibly go to the dinner and not drink because other people would feel uncomfortable. And instead of taking responsibility for how we feel, we imagine that other people are going to feel uncomfortable if we do what we want to do. That's very related to what I call the fake self-actualization loophole, which is when you say things like, oh, you only live once, life's too short not to spend the day outside. Like, how can you, if you don't take this experience now, you'll miss out forever. It's absolutely true. Again, we can make exceptions anytime we want and take advantage of special celebrations or special situations, but you have to think how am I going to feel about this tomorrow? Am I going to be so glad that I didn't miss out on this special experience? Am I going to think this was really a once in a lifetime opportunity? Or am I really going to think to myself, I wish I had stuck to my good habit? And then the last loophole is one of my favorite loopholes, and that's the one coin loophole. And this is a tricky loophole because it's absolutely true. And it takes its name from a teaching story where someone says, does one coin make a man rich? No, but it's, if you give a man a coin, you give a man a coin, at some point he becomes rich. And so you have to say that one coin can make a man rich. And this is relevant to habits because people will say like, well, what difference does it make if I go to the gym today? What's one visit to the gym going to do? Or, today, what difference does it make if I go to the library one time? Or, what difference does one cupcake make? And the fact is, that's absolutely true. One time going to the gym, one time spending the afternoon in the library is going to be almost inconsequential. But the only way that we form good habits is with one coin and one coin and one coin and piling those up. And so whenever you are tempted to think about the one coin loophole, remind yourself that there's the one coin, but then there's the growing heap of coins, and that's where the true wealth is. So the thing about loopholes is just watch out for them, because as they flip through your mind and they make you feel like you're off the hook and it's okay to indulge in some habit, remind yourself, you know what, actually, I don't want to take advantage of this loophole. I want to stick to it. I want to mindfully make an exception, or I really want to stick to the good habits that I'm trying to form.